Hello, and welcome to week 3. This week we are talking about fostering STEM identities in young children, which is something that might seem like, what are we talking about? We talk about identity development in young children when we think about Erickson and the psychosocial stages of development. But now we're talking about academic identity development and what does it mean to be a person who feels comfortable, feels capable, who feels confident, learning, mastering, engaged in STEM activities, and not fearful like, oh, I'm not a math person. Or, oh, science, oh, that's not for me. So how do we foster that development? How do we foster that identity in young children? We start by in this module by looking at what babies can do, and how babies have that natural curiosity and that innate ability to problem solve. And we watch some really interesting videos that talk about infants' capabilities, which is so different than what we thought 20, 30, 40 years ago, and what many of the theorists that we often read about in early childhood um, led us to believe when they published their theories. So it's interesting to see the innate abilities that infants and toddlers have and how we can support that. How do we support that curiosity, that the exploration, the experimentation that children are born with? What can we do? How can we provide hands-on, whole body opportunities for exploration and experimentation that enables children to make mistakes and reflect on their mistakes and learn from their mistakes? Uh, we touch on different things that we can do. We as teachers, we as families, we as caregivers and professionals in creating environments that support that curiosity in our use of language. What can we say? How should we say it? How could we say it? What questions should we use? What connections should we make when we're talking to children? How should we frame that? There's some information about analogies. How do we use analogies? And how do we use praise in this context? What does the research tell us? And what does the research tell us about mindsets with young children informing STEM identities? Because that's important. Are children going to develop that attitude that I can, or that attitude that I can't? And how do we support that as early childhood educators? And then in this module, we also touch on the thinking abilities, the executive functioning that STEM fosters in young children, and what we can do to support that. We finally circle back to some examples of STEM in early childhood with a video in a classroom, and then also some readings. There's an optional video this week to look at one group that's often underrepresented in STEM and not really thought about in STEM, and that's children with disabilities. And so there's an optional video, if you'd like, to view the introduction, and we'll have more videos and more information as we go on. But this is an introduction video about STEM and supporting STEM and STEM inclusion for children with disabilities. So I hope you find that interesting. And I look forward to seeing you next week when we introduce week 4. Have a wonderful week. Be well. Bye.